Don't be fooled by this polite man. Beneath that appearance, he's hiding a killer. This man named John is a family guy with an autistic daughter who, after working 30 years at a paper factory, gets fired because they want younger employees. The stress is overwhelming. If he doesn't make money soon, his wife will leave him and the bank will take their house. During a psychological support session, they tell him to hit his own head because that's how the best ideas come out. He hits himself so hard that he actually does come up with a solution. Kill the candidates who are competing for his job. One of them is Karim, an arrogant guy. John starts obsessing over the idea of killing him, so he decides to follow him like a ninja, and by pure chance he sees Karim talking on the phone right under a building. John goes up to the rooftop planning to drop something heavy on him and get rid of him in one shot. The roof is full of flower pots, so John grabs one and calculates the perfect angle so it'll land right on his head, but then he decides it's too light and too small. Luckily, there are more pots, so he picks the biggest one. That's when the landlady shows up and catches him holding this huge flower pot like he's about to kill someone. He freaks out, thinking he's going straight to jail, but she just cracks a joke about whether he's up there training his muscles. John nervously plays along and starts rethinking everything. Even if he kills Karim, there's no guarantee they'll choose him for the position, because there are other candidates with better resumes. Back in his greenhouse, he starts investigating all the other candidates for the job. He goes through their achievements, their personalities, their families, and discovers there are only 3 truly dangerous competitors besides Karim. One of them is Choi, who's drinking his beer with no idea of what's coming for him. John buys a plastic toy gun in pieces, and when he finishes assembling it, he swaps it for the real gun he keeps in his garden that used to belong to his father. Now he has a real weapon to kill with. The next day, John starts watching Choi's house, looking for a chance to catch him alone and put a bullet in him. Choi decides to go camping with his wife in the woods, so John follows them like a spy, making sure he doesn't leave a single trace. He hides among the trees while the couple, completely unaware they're in danger, begins to argue. John points the gun at them, but doesn't have a clear line of sight. Then he sees them camping between 2 rocks, and the wife takes off her shoes, puts her legs near his hips, and starts whispering something spicy to him. John is stunned and keeps creeping closer. She tries to reignite the flame in their relationship, but Choi is more focused on the chicken he's eating than on her words. Furious, she admits she can't stand him, and Choi runs off, heading straight toward the spot where John is hiding. John aims the gun, but Choi walks right past him and gets smacked in the butt by a falling rock. While John is chasing him, he's bitten by a snake and collapses right in front of Choi's wife. She knows first aid, cuts the wound, and sucks out the venom from his leg. At that exact moment, John's wife calls him on video chat, and he answers lying on the ground, trying to act normal so she won't think he's cheating on her. That night, John's wife gives him a spicy little dance, but when she gets close, she notices he smells like another woman's perfume. He claims he walked into a perfume store, and that's why he smells like that, but she doesn't buy it. So, to change the subject, he lies and tells her he has a job interview tomorrow. She gets so happy that the next morning she sits on top of him and helps him put on his tie. In reality, John sneaks into Choi's house to move forward with his plan, but he finds a scene he didn't expect. He discovers that Choi's wife is cheating on him with a young guy, the same guy John saw leaving the house earlier. John quietly retreats, shocked, thinking other people's lives are a disaster too, but this can actually help him with his plan against Choi. He calls Choi from a blocked number and tells him he's been accepted for the job, that he has to go to the company immediately for a second interview. The plan works because an excited Choi runs into his house to grab a blazer, but once inside, he catches his wife cheating with another guy. He falls into a complete depression. Not only does he lose his wife, he realizes he's also lost his chance at the job because he's now late. Later, John goes to pick his wife up from work and finds her talking to the dentist, who happens to be a pretty handsome young man. They're smiling at each other a lot, and John notices there's a lot of chemistry between them. John is eaten alive by jealousy and feels like he's about to go through the same experience as Choi, that his wife is going to cheat on him too, so he drags her away in a bad mood. In his head, if he can land an important job, he'll be a real man again in his wife's eyes. That's why he goes back to Choi's house with darker motives and finds the man sitting in a chair, drunk and completely broken. John hides his gun inside an oven mitt and points it at Choi, who instead of screaming and running, points his fist at him in a dramatic movie-like showdown. John gets serious and pulls out the gun he's been hiding, and suddenly Choi's wife appears behind him holding a statue. Just as she's about to smash it over his head, Choi blurts out that he still loves his wife. She stops, frozen, while the two men keep shouting insults at each other. The wife speaks up and John jumps, startled, and the gun goes off by accident, only grazing Choi in the shoulder. Right after that, Choi's wife hits John in the head, holds her back while Choi steals the gun, and John sees him pointing it at both him and the wife, not sure who to shoot. John takes advantage of the chaos and runs, but the fight doesn't end there. Choi's wife runs out of the house and fires the gun. John seems to be fine. She shot her husband in an insane twist. She yells that she's been unhappy for 25 years and he has never once told her she looks beautiful. She throws one reproach after another at him until she finally kills him. John witnesses the whole murder and runs away as fast as he can while the woman shoots at him. She has to kill him or he'll be a witness. He dodges the bullets and manages to escape. On the way back, he sees 10 missed calls from his kids and talks to them while he gets rid of evidence at a gas station. The plan didn't go exactly as he imagined, but it still worked. Choi is dead, one less candidate for the job. Then he remembers he had plans with his wife to go to a costume party, and since he didn't show up, she ends up dancing with the dentist. John arrives at the party dressed as Napoleon and sees her dancing a very romantic tango with the dentist. He stops in front of her. Their eyes meet, but she looks at him with pure contempt, with zero remorse about what she's doing. He walks away heartbroken, realizing he did all of this only for his wife to end up leaving him. Then suddenly he remembers he left the gun at Choi's house. When he goes back, he sees Choi's wife and her lover digging a hole to bury the body. He takes the opportunity to slip inside and retrieve the gun without being seen. Back home, when his wife comes in, things get tense. They get into a physical argument and John accuses her of cheating. She explodes and tells him he's a drunk, hinting that he is the problem because he disappears all day without explanation and ignores his responsibilities as a husband. He can't exactly tell her he's been out killing people, so he slams his head against the wall to shut down the conversation. Then John moves on to the next name on his kill list, Wang, a candidate who works in a shoe store and is a widower, but whose biggest motivation is to make a lot of money. John walks into the store in disguise, acting like a pathetic, broke man. He tells Wang he was also a fired manager and barely has money for food, but even so, he came to buy shoes for his daughter. Wang is touched and promises to wait for him after his shift and give him a discount. The plan is working. At the end of the day, Wang is driving home when he finds John in the middle of the road, pretending his car has broken down. Wang gets out to help and John uses the chance to pull his gun. He hesitates for a moment, so Wang tries to run, but John ends up shooting him. The gunshot is loud, but no one is nearby, so it's easy for him to grab the body and shove it into the trunk. Then he smashes the car's security camera so there's no evidence and drives home, forgetting that he left the bullet casing on the road. In his yard, he grabs a shovel and spends the whole night digging a hole to bury the body. However, he's completely exhausted and goes to sleep, leaving the corpse still in the trunk. He wakes up on the living room couch, and his wife tells him the police are at the door. John thinks they've found him out, but it turns out they came for his son, who stole some phones from his friend's dad's store to sell them and help the family with the debts. John notices that a bit of the dead body's cloth is hanging out of the trunk and covers it before the police can see. Later, he goes to the police station and pulls his son aside, telling him, "I know how hard it is to feel like you're committing a crime all by yourself." But the boy looks at him, not understanding the drama at all, and answers, "It was fun, Dad, and it was my idea." John is frozen. He realizes his son actually enjoys committing crimes, which means he has a twisted mind. John goes to talk to the owner of the phones and asks him to drop the charges. The owner refuses, so John plays his trump card. Either he withdraws the complaint, or John will tell his wife that he's been sleeping with the women who work in his store. The man agrees to forget everything, and John's wife actually likes this new boldness in her husband. However, John still has another nightmare to solve. He has to figure out how to cut up and hide Wang's dead body. First, he tries using a chainsaw, but realizes it would be a complete bloody disaster, so instead he takes an electrical cord from a fan and wraps the body like a sandwich. What he doesn't know is that his son has seen everything from the rooftop, watching live as his father digs and drags things around the garden in the middle of the night. The next day, the police start to seriously suspect John. The evidence points to him because 2 candidates for the same job have suddenly disappeared. They interrogate him, but he fakes surprise and says it's all just coincidence. The police, however, know coincidences don't exist. Only killers do. John swallows and tries to play it off, joking that the company must be cursed and even saying that if he disappears too, he'll give them a call. The officers leave, but it's clear they don't trust him. Right then, they find the bullet he used to kill Wang. And even worse, his wife begins to suspect that her husband is a real murderer. Even though she sees him comforting their daughter like a good father, she believes there's a very dark side buried inside him. The police warn Karim that he's in danger since he's the only candidate still alive. Despite this, John gets Karim's driver to stop the car in the middle of the road and pretends to be a fan, giving him a bottle of alcohol. Karim suggests they open it inside, and John follows him into the house, where they start drinking together. On the surface, the situation looks friendly, but John is way too nervous because he can't find the right moment to kill him. So he decides to get Karim completely drunk and then finish him off when he's defenseless. They drink like crazy until Karim passes out. That's when it's John's moment. He digs a hole and puts Karim in it, leaving only his head above ground so he can breathe. The scene is terrifying. We see John brushing Karim's hair with a little paintbrush, like he's styling him while he's half buried. Meanwhile, John's wife suspects their son is hiding something from her, so she takes him to the swing they call the Chair of Confessions. There, the boy tells her what he saw his father doing in the yard and that he buried something. She goes out and digs in the garden herself and confirms there's a corpse buried there. Just then, John gets a call from his wife. "Forget the job, we don't need anything else. Just learn gardening, stay with me, and let's live peacefully for the rest of our lives." But John, standing next to Karim stuck in the ground, tells her he's about to be hired, and he's very close to achieving his goal. At that moment, Karim wakes up and John hangs up on his wife. He stands behind Karim and puts a funnel in his mouth, then crushes chunks of meat and pushes them down the funnel straight into his throat. It turns into a grotesque form of suffocation. John seals his mouth with plastic wrap until the man stops breathing and dies. Then he places a cigar and a bottle of alcohol nearby to set up a scene that never actually happened. He wants the police to believe the guy killed himself. He cleans every trace, every fingerprint, so there's no sign he was ever there, leaves everything perfect, and walks out the door. The next morning, he talks with his wife, who is petrified by who her husband really is. She says she can smell tobacco on him even though he never smoked, and he claims it was from a barbecue he had with a friend. When she gets up, he doesn't let her leave, holding her by the hips. By her side, he feels good and believes their marriage is perfectly fine. Then 2 months go by and John is at the final interview for his dream job at the paper factory. They tell him they've bought new machines and that if they hire him, they'll fire the rest of the current team. John accepts immediately. The world has changed and technology is everywhere. He's not going to be the one who stands in the way of the future. The directors walk away happy with his answer. When he gets home, the police are waiting again. He takes a deep breath, thinking this time they're going to arrest him, but instead they tell him they've spoken with the wife of one of the missing candidates. She says her husband is responsible for Karim's death and that he had a gun with bullets matching the ones they found on the road. They're worried this man might kill John too, so they warn him to be careful. John acts like he's shaken when in reality he's the one who murdered all 3 of his competitors. It's unbelievable. After this, we see how his life reorganizes itself. They get their dogs back, they buy their daughter a cello and realize she really is a genius. In that moment, the dog sniffs something in the garden, and when his wife notices, she screams, "Get out of there right now, there's nothing for you to dig!" She knows the dead body of one of the competitors is buried there. But what is she supposed to do? Turn her husband in and completely destroy her family? Or pretend she doesn't know anything and enjoy going back to her comfortable life? She chooses her comfortable life and goes back to playing tennis like she always loved, while John heads to his new job in a factory where he's completely surrounded by machines that do the work for him. All he has to do is press a few buttons. That's why he finds himself alone in this gigantic place with nothing but his nightmares about killing 3 people. He has nightmares for years, but the warmth of his family gives him the strength to keep going. His family thanks him for everything he's done for them, while the dead bodies are still in their garden and a tree has grown right on top of the corpses.